What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Sarkis Unlocked. Today, I have the great pleasure of speaking with Megan Francese, Listing and Transactions Manager of the Sarkis Team. You're going to get an inside scoop on everything Megan sees, what she has to navigate through to sell multi-million-dollar properties, and she might even tell you a story about a bird flying through a house. Stay tuned. Megan Francese, welcome to Sarkis Unlocked.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So, you have grew into a very important role on this team. You work with Manny and I hand in hand on all of our listings and buyers. You are the listing and transactions manager of the Sarkis Team, and that position itself holds great responsibility. You are dealing with some of the biggest listings, not only on this team, but in the entire state of Massachusetts. And you've done an amazing job. But before we get into that, I just want to talk about my first interaction with you. You had reached out, inquired about joining the team, and I remember reading a couple of your emails, and one of them was just asking about what happens with parking, what about this, what about that, and I had my doubts. I was like, this girl is going to drive me crazy. And, you put all those doubts to bed. In the beginning, you had asked a lot of questions. Sometimes you took about 20 minutes to answer one simple question, and I was like, oh, man. But it wasn't because you were slow. It was because you were detail-oriented. You didn't want to leave anything out. And the attention to detail is why you are in the position you are in with this team. Because when you're listing a $20+ million house, every inch, every square meter matters. Every appliance, every fixture, it's about the details. And you are the queen of paying attention to the details. But I want today to be about people getting to know you, understanding Megan and who she is, what she does. So I want to start off by, asking you, before the Sarkis Team, what path were you on professionally, personally, and what ultimately drew you to joining this team?
So,
why did you send that email, Megan?
It was definitely your guys' elite work ethic that I think attracted me to want to join the team. And, I was on the path of real estate and had my license for a little over a year before I thought about joining your team.
And who were you with before?
I worked at Keller Williams, and you kind of have two paths as a real estate agent. You can go out, build your own brand, or you can join a team. And this I saw as an established brand, and that was worth standing behind and something that I really wanted to be a part of. I could tell that you guys had a really stellar reputation, and the way that you were operating is what I wanted, because I didn't just want to work in real estate. I wanted a real career that I could build on. And I don't think that there are many real estate agents that are operating at the level that you guys are at, and that was really evident to me. So it was something I wanted to be a part of.
You obviously have learned a lot over 3 years. Now, what is something that you've learned over these 3+ years selling high-end real estate and joining this team that you didn't even know or expect to learn?
There's a lot of things that come to mind when you ask me this question. So there's so many things that I've learned. One that's sort of might be a little controversial. Some of our clients, maybe a hot take, is that money doesn't buy taste. And that's one of the biggest things I've learned.
Money doesn't buy taste.
Yes, and even...
Let's not talk about any specifics here.
Yes, but even if you spent a fortune on your renovation, or you might have worked with a designer, your taste is personal to you, and it doesn't equal value, and it won't always translate to value, because what you like is not always going to be what a future buyer likes. So
what would you recommend, to someone who is renovate? If I'm buying, everyone says their forever home, which we both know is not your
forever home.
Yeah,
There's no forever home.
There is no forever home. And that's what I always say. But if someone was buying you've heard me plenty of times over these last 3 years, tell people, if you plan on selling, be very conscious to what you're doing in your home. If you don't think that this is a 10-year play, 10-plus year play, but what are some things that are specific to that? Give me an example. Not what everyone likes, and is it paint colors? Is it, light fixtures? What are some of the craziest things you've seen that you wish you could have been because we obviously go into a home a lot of the time. We didn't sell them the home, and we didn't even have a relationship with them when they bought the home. But if we did, which is what we do a lot of the time now, advise them. What would you what would come to mind? And once again, no addresses, please.
I think just taking too many risks with specific design choices and picking things that might not appeal to the broad masses, which if it's your house, I get you want to have your taste, and that's fine, but just don't expect that, whatever you spent on it, you're always going to be able to recoup those costs and the value when you go to resell the house. So that is one thing. I have another one of the answers to that question about another thing I've learned is how to really read the room and different buyer tells, because the previous answer was more listing specific, but with buyers, I think I've learned to kind of read whether or not someone might be serious. I think one thing people ask can be, why is someone selling? And usually someone that's super serious is focused a lot more on the opportunity and less on the backstory. So that's just a small example of a buyer tell of, okay, if this person's really honed in on why the person's selling, that's, maybe an indicator that they're not super serious about buying yet.
Reading the room, and the way to read the room when a buyer walks in, what do you have to do? How do you have to know what they're actually looking for and actually know? You have to ask questions, correct?
Yeah.
And
sure.
That's how you get the answers. So talking about listings and you being, the person who actually manages all these listings from start to finish. I mean, you're going on the pitches with us, you're, feeling the space, you're understanding it. What are some things that actually go into, because everyone sees, the listing go live. They see, the photos, and then they see the end agreement flyer, and then they see the close flyer. But what are some things that actually go into a listing, go into the process that people don't see? I mean, obviously, they're not hearing some of these crucial conversations we have to have with our sellers, but you make it look so flawless, Meg. But it's obviously not that flawless, and we all know that. So, we're here to, kind of talk about the nitty-gritty. We're here to talk about, what doesn't look so beautiful on Instagram. Let's just talk about that. Because this office sometimes catches on fire, on specific days. And, magazines have got thrown across the room a couple times. What causes those magazines to fly up in the air? Once again, don't get too specific with the actual people and listings, Meg.
So before a listing actually hits the market, there are 100 micro decisions to get to that point. So there's a lot of prep work that goes into it. And my role is kind of, coordinating.
First off, your role is doing everything.
Yeah, there's
you
a lot.
do everything.
It's hard. Yeah, it's not just, one easy definition, but I think a lot of what people don't see is how much work goes into prepping, and even having sometimes difficult conversations with the client that like, hey, we may need you to remove some of these specific things in your home that maybe you love, but this is gonna,
Going back to what we talked about earlier.
Yeah, it could keep a buyer from being able to really envision themselves living in your home. So, even though it might not be what they want to hear, even spending money to prep the house, it might not be what they want to hear. That, hey, our recommendation if you're looking to get this number for your house is you're going to need to paint, or you're going to need to make specific repairs. So there's a lot that goes on to prepare like a luxury, $3+ million house to hit the market, and a lot of decisions behind the scenes before it actually goes live.
And like what you've done and what you've been able to help us with, because I'm a big believer, not everyone's good at everything. Everyone has their strengths and their weaknesses. Some people can see things that other people can't. And what I think you're great at is ripping off the Band-Aid. For you just, because people don't like, having confrontation. They don't like having tough conversations. They don't like hearing that their light fixture or their paint color or, the outside needs to be power washed, specifically because a lot of people are used to 2021, 2022, where you just throw it up and it sells. Inventory was low. People were, running for the burbs, for example, and everything was selling. But for you just want to get it done, and you want the home to be represented at the best of its ability. You want it to be set up for success. Yeah. And I remember, we just got a house under contract, which we were the second or the third agents. Talk about case studies. You love talking about the case studies. We went into this home. We're not going to talk about this specific home, but this home was somewhat tired. And you orchestrated everything. You got a company to epoxy the garage floor, paint, change the recessed lighting. You got them to fix cabinets. You did everything, all the way to getting the home staged. And we had obstacles after that. So we talk about, it looked flawless. It looked like it was beautiful. The pictures were great. But then we had some, rocky times. And we even had a situation where on the showing, where the person actually bought the home, we had, can you tell what happened? You got to tell this story. The person who actually is closing on the home next week, at that showing, you want to talk about an obstacle. Instagram doesn't see this one. We're walking through the house. Megan, explain what happened.
There was not only a dead bird in the home, but also a live bird.
Yes.
That when the buyer...
A live bird, everybody. A live bird was flying in the house when we had a showing. What else was there? There was a live bird. There was a dead bird. And then there were some things on the furniture and on the floors. What was it?
There was bird poop. This bird was in the house.
I say bird shit, but bird poop. Yeah, same thing. Bird shit. Okay.
Yeah, not great.
Yep. And for some reason, but first off, so that happened. We thought there's no chance in hell that this guy's going to buy the house.
Right.
And obviously, we had to think that we have to fix this problem because we need someone else to buy the house. So what you did was within 24 hours, you had an exterminator there. You had the bird out. You had all the gaps closed where the bird was entering the house. You were able to work with the company, locate it, close it off, get all the bird poop cleaned, and get the house professionally cleaned and back in tip-top shape. We didn't need it because we had sold the house. You and I put together a hell of a deal. We got real with the seller. We had to have a tough conversation with them, and we're closing next week. People don't see the bird. They don't see the bird shit. They don't see you calling the exterminator. And that's just next level. And that's what this business is all about.
That's the brand that you've built too, is that, we are a white glove service team. And I think that's the expectation when you're in luxury real estate. And that is probably maybe a misconception that like some people have looking from the outside, that you're not just showing a house and negotiating a deal. There's so much that goes into the back end to support our clients, because a lot of the time too, I would say maybe half of our like big listing clients, like it's not the homeowner's only house, so they're not always here, and where they're traveling, and it's really like we become kind of a like concierge service for helping them maintain their house, and knowing the way it needs to be positioned so that they can successfully sell it.
Correct. And another thing I've learned from you is, because I said I'm not great at everything, and we all learn from each other here, is you've had to get real with me and say, you're doing a little too much. Mm-hmm. You've had to say to me, like, that's actually not our responsibility. And you've had to, and sometimes where I thought, because growing a business takes delegation, building systems, and there's just not enough hours in the day when you're running a big operation like us. And sometimes, where I've said, Megan, I need you to go there to do X, Y, and Z. You've had to get real with me and say, George, I can go and show this house. I can go and, pitch this listing for us. Or I could go and, turn the heat on in the house. Let me call the seller first. For me in the beginning, I used to get worried. Like we had to do everything. We're not.
There's a balance.
There's a balance. And you've had to, and sometimes you've just picked up the phone and you've called the seller, or you've called someone to take care of it. And you've let the seller know that's their responsibility, because we don't own the house. Yeah. And it's not our house, unless we were getting paid on the profit of the house when it sells, or we had equity in the house, but we don't. We're just there to, market, advise, and help them with a successful transaction at the end. So, you've done a really good job at that. Obviously, we go above and beyond, but we have to draw a line at some point, correct?
For sure, yeah.
So you're essentially an extension of Manny and I, representing our standards, communication, leadership. What does that responsibility mean to you? Like, literally, you're in it. You're going wherever we go.
I definitely take a lot of pride in the responsibility, and I understand that it's a real privilege, because you've given me.
I haven't given you anything. You've earned it.
Thank you.
You've earned it on your own. I didn't give you anything.
Well, you've given me, though, trust, but I think it's because you trust that we share the same values, and I have to, present myself knowing that every conversation I have, every even email I send is a direct reflection of you and our brand. And it's important that the same way that you would approach a situation with the same level, the same professionalism and care that you take with your clients, and your approach is the same way that I need to approach situations, because I am kind of the person that needs to protect our brand, and I feel like that is a big responsibility and a privilege because I get to be the person that is ensuring clients feel supported and safe in some of these like high stake, high stress situations that they're in a lot of the time.
Spot on. Spot on. And, you know, I say you're an extension of Manny and I, but it's way beyond that. I lean on you for so much. Manny does as well. Like I can be sitting here and there could be a tough situation. We have a problem, and I'll look at you, and I'll say, "What would you do?" When you give me that answer, 99% of the time, what do I do?
Go with that.
Go with your answer.
Yeah, we're definitely.
And I tell you, go with your gut.
Yeah.
What do you think? Because perfection doesn't exist. We know that. You know that. And sometimes, no matter how hard we work, you can't make some people happy, unfortunately. You know, you just can't. And I think that it's super important to actually realize that specific things are out of our control and at least know that we gave it our all. And hopefully there's a solution. Hopefully we can solve the problem. But if not, we have to move on because there'll be another one. And we just can't get down. Speaking of challenges and problems, what's the biggest challenge you've had to navigate in this role? And what did it teach you about yourself and about the industry itself? You've dealt with a lot. Come on. I mean, we've had to navigate through storms and earthquakes and a whole lot of shit.
Yeah.
Bird shit, no pun intended.
I think a challenge more at the beginning that has gotten better in the more confidence that I've got is that, you know, just because the messenger is changing doesn't mean that it's not as important. So whether it's coming from you or from me, getting, you know, the same level of like respect from someone, and having them understand that if it's coming from me, it's really coming from you. So getting confident around the fact that, you know, I can insert myself and trust my gut to make a decision, because all of the decisions we make are so high stakes a lot of the time. I think another challenge too is really delivering hard truths to people, because a lot of the time...
Crucial conversations. We read a book about that too, didn't we?
Yes, yeah. And it's really important that, you know, we learn to deliver a hard truth, even if it's not what a client wants to hear in the moment. That's how we can protect our clients in the long term, is sometimes having them pull back from a decision that they want to make if they want to buy a house that maybe is not the right fit or the right, you know, financial decision for them. So those sort of harder conversations, I think, can be really challenging, you know, and we're just trying to look out for clients.
Yeah, and I say it all the time. We don't control the market. We just don't, unfortunately. If I did, I would own an island right now. But we don't control the market, and we tell our clients that, and you and I always talk about this. We don't control the house on the same street selling for X dollars that's going to impact our sale. It's happening right now. But what we do control, and a message that you've delivered time and time again, because it's been consistent, what you deliver, what I deliver, what Manny delivers, what we hope the whole team delivers, is we don't control the market. But what we do control is the communication with our clients, the information we're delivering, the relentless work ethic to get the job done and the advice we provide based on that information. You know, I always tell people, the price of your home is what someone's willing to pay to some extent. But the market dictates a lot of that. And we just have to put our clients in the best position to get what the market says. And you've done a great job with those tough conversations. The agents, the clients, the vendors, everyone relies on you, including myself. What do you think people misunderstand about what you actually do? You know, and it's funny, like, I tell people all the time, we went on a pitch yesterday, and I told people straight up, I go, she's the boss. Like, what is the outside world, sellers, vendors, everyone, what do they misunderstand that you get pissed off about, Meg? Or you have to, like, make clear?
I mean, you do a really good job of positioning me to people, so I don't really feel like there's anything that I have to make clear because you're so good at being assertive and, like, loud about that.
I'm loud? No, I'm very quiet.
But I would say that, you know, maybe it could be misunderstood that, like, I'm just managing logistics and contracts and timelines, which I do, but it's also, I think, a lot of managing expectation and emotion, since, you know, usually, and this is a big thing that I've learned as well, that, like, deals don't usually fall apart because of a small detail or a mistake that someone's making. A lot of times it's very emotionally driven. Almost all the time, I think. It falls apart due to
emotion. A lot of emotion in this business, huh, Meg?
Yeah, so I think
roller coaster.
I think that's the
roller coaster.
That could be a misunderstanding, is that, you know, I'm really helping to manage the client experience, because it's super important that not just the client, but the other agents we work with, the attorneys, the lenders, all of the vendors that we work with are, you know, feeling that we are the type of people that are not cutting corners, and that the way that we're operating all kind of goes back to our brand strategy and, like, our long-term plan and goal for the brand. Really is, like, you know, our decisions all have to tie back to that. So I think it's, you know, maybe a misunderstanding that we're just kind of going through motions, but it's really, I think, a little bit deeper of managing emotion and the client experience, because the way that we want people to feel when they're working with us is really a reflection of our brand.
And that's spot on. And you have always said, like you said earlier, like I do a good job at letting people know. I've also had your back a couple times.
All the time.
And I always have your back. But, you know, some people have actually, you know, spoke down to you. Some people have, you know, called you my assistant or my admin or whatever it is. Titles don't mean shit at the end of the day, but I've had to let people know you're beyond that. You're beyond that. You are responsible for so much. We even had a situation with a client where they disrespected you to some extent. And what did I do? If what did I do? No, but I had
to say.
What?
I said I don't know if I should say.
You don't have to say all. You don't have to give all the details. But, you know, normally people say, you know, the client's always right. Client's always right until they disrespect my family. They disrespect my team. But I mean, I needed to do that because, first off, even if you made a mistake, nothing deserves disrespect.
Yeah.
And respect is everything, and you've earned the respect. And not to mention, you delivered results for this client. Like, explain that situation really quickly. Like, without the details, but like, you know what I mean? Like, that, because that, you were misunderstood there, maybe.
Yeah, this is definitely, I think, a more of a unique situation, but there was one situation where I think that the client was reluctant to believe that I was qualified for the job that needed to get done. And, you know, you've made it clear always that, you know, whoever you bring on to a deal is who you believe to be the person that is going to be the best fit for that client and that job.
Correct.
And that's like a major, you know, part of your leadership, and your role is navigating, you know, with our whole team of everyone, like, okay, who's going to be the person to bring on to this deal or that deal, and how are they going to mesh with these clients? So, you know, you kind of have to, you know, you had to put this specific situation, like, in this person in their place of like, hey, you know, when they were questioning me, you're like, no, this Megan knows what she's doing. She's working really hard to get this done for you. And there's nothing more that I or anyone else, if they were in this position and doing what she's doing, there's no one that would be able to do it.
Yeah, because they always run to me, and I always tell people straight up,
there's nothing I can do.
Megan has this. My team has this. Because what really is one of my pet peeves is whether it's a vendor, whether it's someone I'm working with, if, you know, Avery from marketing or anyone on the team reaches out to somebody and, you know, asks them for something, whether it's a website that we're, like the website company we're working with, a graphic designer, whatever it is, they might not get the response. They might not even respond right away. They might not even get to it right away. But then George sends the email.
The messenger.
And boom, everyone responds. Oh my God, what's going on? That's bullshit. We have a team in place because the team is there to do what they do best. I'm not a marketing genius. I don't pay attention to the details like you. You know, like, that's the thing. People need to understand that. And that's it. It's like what you've done to navigate through this crazy business, this crazy industry, you know, speaks volume to who you are, because everyone can operate when things are going well. But what Megan Francese does and continues to do at a high level that, you know, continues to impress me is you're learning and getting so much better at operating in chaos, finding solutions to problems. Yeah, it's all great when it's sunshine and rainbows.
Controlled chaos.
Controlled chaos, and, you know, if I'm a seller, Meg, and I know that you're on my team, I feel the utmost confidence. I really do, and I feel like I should pay 7%. Shout out to all the sellers, pay 7%. But we're gonna wrap this up. You know, going into 2026 and just your future and your growth with the Sarkis team, what excites you the most about where we're headed and the role you play in shaping that growth? Like, what excites you?
So I think what excites me the most is that we are continuing to scale without losing that white glove service that we provide. I think there are a lot of brands, not just even in real estate, but in every industry, where you see teams that have a lot of success and they try and scale really quickly, but then they lose the, you know, heart of their brand of where, you know, they started and how they got the success to begin with, is delivering that white glove service and that really nice client experience that keeps people coming back and gives us, you know, their friends, family. We never just want to do one deal with people. So I think what excites me is that we're really focused on how to scale, but without losing that that service that we provide, no matter how many people we're servicing. So that's exciting to me.
Do you think I want to grow, or do you think I'm content?
You are not content.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Are you content?
No, I'm ready for more, and it's exciting, like I said at the beginning of this, that to be a part of the growth of a brand that I think is really worth, standing behind.
Awesome.
And proud to be a part of.
Well, I can end with this. This brand will not grow without amazing, hardworking, relentless, and determined people like you. So thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Of course. Everyone, please follow Megan on Instagram at Megan Francese. Follow her on LinkedIn. Check her out on our website, sarkisboston.com. Read her bio. You're not going to hire her, so don't try, because she's here for a long time. Thank you.